Mel Kiper Jr. has his new 2-round mock draft posted today.
Because one isn't enough.
Yeah. You know what I'm glad he's stopped doing? Is he stopped doing like 1.0, 1.1, and then all of a sudden he just jumps to 2.0? I don't get it.
1.75.
I never got that. And maybe it might be that there's not that pressure anymore that Todd McShay's gone. Quietly, Todd McShay no longer with ESPN. I think he's with On3 now.
No, he's with The Ringer.
The Ringer now. Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good, decent little show.
I like
Decent little
McShay.
program.
I like McShay. But they got Matt Miller now too at ESPN, so I don't feel like it's as the competition is hot and heavy with Kiper. So I don't feel like he's numbering his mock drafts anymore, and I'm okay with that. He's just saying, hey, here's the new mock draft. Nothing is really changing at the top. He's got Cam Ward going number 1, Travis Hunter 2, Abdul Carter 3, Will Campbell, the offensive lineman from LSU, number 4 to New England, Mason Graham to the Jags at 5, and then Ashton Jeanty up to 6. He has Shedeur Sanders dropping down to 9th in this draft, and that's something that we need to talk about is some of these guys that we don't necessarily trust. But there's some interesting movement, though, near the bottom of his first round, as there are now 2 Oregon Ducks in the first round of the NFL draft. Coming in at 21 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, he has Derek Harmon going to the Steelers at 21. For the life of me, I do not understand why Derek Harmon is not like in the 15 to 20 range. Now, 21 is not that far off from that.
Right.
But it just doesn't seem like you see him there ever. And he is a guy that he's a big body, run stopper, but also creates and generates pass rush from the interior, getting double teamed the entire season.
The only thing that I can think of is the position more so than it is his skill level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's already 2 big name defensive tackles, the 2 Michigan guys, right?
Well, and that was the problem, is that he was second team all Big Ten because of Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham.
Right. Yet I would make the argument at times he was better than both. Well, maybe not Graham, but better than Grant at times.
Yep.
That his play that he has against Ohio State, he defeats a double team, gets into the backfield, hits the Ohio State running back. I can't remember if it was Judkins or Henderson.
Travion Henderson.
Smokes him, takes the ball out of his hand, a la Jadeveon Clowney. And the reason I think it's better than Jadeveon Clowney's is because he defeats a double team. Clowney, they have a misassignment. He goes through scot-free. Derek Harmon is unbelievable.
That turned that game, too.
It completely got it back to where the Ducks needed it to be. The difference, I think, though, is what do people talk about when you go into the first round? You either need to get a quarterback or you need to get a pass rusher or someone to stop the pass rusher. And Harmon's position at that defensive tackle, yeah, there's a little bit of a pass rush, but for the most part, he's a run stopper. And so I think it's more so, it's not his skill level. And there are going to be players that are drafted ahead of him that he's better than. But his position value is what's going to push him out of the 20s. Would I be shocked, though, if a team snuck up and grabbed him at 18 or 19?
Nope.
No. He fits perfect, though, with Pittsburgh.
He does. That'd be a good fit there. They're aging up front. You get a little bit of youth injection in there with Derek Harmon. So he has been the guy that most people have had mocked as a first-round pick. Kiper has a second Duck coming in at 25th. He's got Josh Connerly going to the Houston Texans. Obviously, their ability to protect C.J. Stroud is going to be paramount. That's the number one thing that they need to address this offseason. And when you trade away Laramie Tunsil, that obviously changes what you need and where you're going to go at the back end of the first round. Connerly he's a ballerina. He is a big, athletic, physical monster. And there's one bad clip of him at the Senior Bowl.
It's the only bad clip he had.
Well, the rest of that week was the defensive players in the Senior Bowl voted him the best lineman in the Senior Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And that's voted on by the guys you're going up against. So Connerly He has got it. There is now a need in Houston at tackle. Get Young there. Match up a tackle with your starting quarterback in their career arcs and trajectory. So he has Josh Connerly into the first round at 25th to the Houston Texans.
Has anyone had a better rise or a more drastic rise than Connerly in this season? Because I remember looking at it before this Oregon Ducks season started, and Connerly was going to be someone that was drafted.
Mm-hmm.
But they were talking about him possibly being a day 3 guy. And now, after the year that he had, and the most important game for him, I guess most two, it's the game against Ohio State at Autzen, where you're going up against JTT and you're going up against Jack Sawyer.
Mm.
And as good as those two are, neither one of them, you'll notice, is projected in the first round. They're great, and combine them together, you're not going to see that type of defensive end talent
Really good.
together in college too often. And he shut them both down. But the game where he made his money, it's the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah,
because
Abdul
Abdul Carter ran away from him. Abdul Carter is going to be probably the second or third player picked in this draft. I would assume he's going to be drafted before Hunter, so he will be the first non-quarterback drafted. There's an argument to be made that he's the best player in this draft, and Josh Connerly whooped him to the point where he left and he went somewhere else.
Yep.
Now, Abdul Carter is a good enough athlete that he's got a little bit of J.J. Watt in him where, okay, Connerly's a bad matchup for me. I'm going to go to the other side and see if I have a better matchup over here, and I'll stay over there, or I'll bounce around until I find the best matchup and go against them. But I don't think that, aside from maybe Dan Lanning, this was a more impressive year and a more important year for a person in that organization with the Ducks.
You
than Josh Connerly.
Canadianize organization.
I have some Canadian in me, so that makes sense.
You say organization, which is very Canadian of you. I like it. It's a good.
Grandma Evie was born in Saskatchewan.
It's a good curveball. Denver getting Tetairoa McMillan for Bo Nix. That would be a boom if he is available at 20. And then the other kind of surprising, by the way, McMillan's second receiver off the board. This receiver class has been all over the map. Matthew Golden now projected to be the first receiver off the board, according to Kuiper. 16 to Arizona. I don't either.
I don't get it. I don't understand the nitpicking of T-Mac and just, hey, his catch radius is better than anybody else's in this draft class.
Mm-hmm. Good route runner, too.
It's better than most people in the NFL. And there's an attack right now on his speed. Who cares about his speed? He was an elite volleyball player in high school. His vertical is stupid. Yep. It's not like he's out there running a 5.5 40. It's still fast. It's just not blazing fast. I don't understand this, especially when he's so tall. He's going to be able to go up and get any ball you need.
A little intel here. I don't know if she's the principal or vice principal. My wife's aunt is either the principal or vice principal at Servite, where he went to high school.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. She's the principal. Just Googled that. Well, she's the principal there. She raved about him as a person, too, coming out of high school. And that is, like, when you have diva wide receivers,
right,
that can always be an issue. Stuck around at Arizona after Jedd Fisch left, wanted to continue building there. And some of the baggage that can come with high-end wide receivers
right,
doesn't seem to have any of that either. And you know what? That may turn some teams off in the NFL, to be quite frank. Like,
right.
Having that attitude in that diva, like, we hear about it all the time. He doesn't have that. And for some teams, that may be like, kind of have to have a little bit of that to succeed in the league.
Yeah, it's a weird thought process where they almost want the T.O. type, but a little more in control than T.O., like a Stephon Diggs, right? Where Stephon Diggs clearly has that diva in him, but when things are going his way, he's going to be able to rein it in. Even when it didn't go his way, like Diggs got into arguments on the sidelines, but you know what Diggs wasn't doing? He wasn't out there doing crunches in his driveway so that people could come up and interview him. My thing with T-Mac, and maybe this is a lazy comp, it's Mike Evans, dude.
Yeah, and look, Mike Evans and Larry Fitzgerald, I'll take them 10 out of 10.
Right. They're big receivers. They run crisp routes. They catch every ball that comes your way. They're not going to blaze anyone past anyone with their speed, but they don't need to. They have the size difference. They have a physical difference. They're stronger. They're bigger. I don't understand why it almost feels like teams are nitpicking their way out of going with T-Mac when you've seen it on the field. He was double covered all year, and he was still easily the best player for Arizona. He's the only reason their offense worked.
Another bit of a surprise that's not too much of a surprise is the Rams at 26. Kuiper's got Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback, going to the Rams to be the future for Sean McVay, drafting the replacement moving forward. I don't know if I would go quite that far in this year's draft with the quarterback class, but if you need a guy that will be the heir apparent to Stafford, who you have because remember, he restructured his deal, so he's got this year and next year. You're gonna have to draft and stash him away for a little bit, but Jackson Dart to the Rams. Other than that, pretty standard as far as the mock draft. It seems like things are calming, and we're starting to find guys sorted into where they're going to go.
Well, we had talked about this in the pre-show stuff, but it seems kind of like a boring draft, and people forget that the draft is basically 2 weeks away. And the reason for that is because you kind of, for the most part, already know where everyone's going to go, or at least you have an idea between 2 or 3 players. Like, it's not as an exciting of a draft. It's a little bit of a weaker draft, and everyone kind of seems to have already said, hey, we need a QB, so you know that this QB is going to get taken. Hey, we need an O-lineman. We need a defensive end. It's one of those drafts where the sex appeal isn't there.
He does have the Seahawks taking Kelvin Banks, the tackle out of Texas. Obviously, you have Charles Cross, who's going to be your left tackle. Abe Lucas on the right side has been banged up and injured. Look, you need help on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
If Kelvin Banks is there at 18, you take him 10 out of 10. That dude, criminally underrated right now in this draft process.
Right. Well, and you figure it out too. Like, you can bump someone in. It's not, I don't want to say it's not hard, because it is hard. It's hard to move from a tackle to a guard. But a lot of times what teams will do, and you saw this with Mekhi Becton in New York, and then what Philly did with him this past season, you draft a guy and you plan for him to be your tackle. And if he's not athletic enough, or for whatever reason, maybe he's too slow, his arm length isn't right, so he's missing his punches. If he doesn't do well at tackle, you can bump him into guard, put an extra 10 to 15 pounds on him, and the thought process is now, well, you'll have a more athletic guard. He's just not quite athletic enough to be a tackle, but he can be a great guard. The other player that you see on a lot of other mock drafts that Seattle taking, it's that Gray Zabel, the guard slash center, North Dakota State. You can't go wrong with either one of those. I think if you are a Seahawks fan, you want to see success, it's clear where and what position group they have to build from. And they took a risk. They went after guys in free agency, and they didn't get to sign any of them for whatever reason. So you have to build it now through the draft, and you're hoping that Seattle finally has some success there, because they really haven't.